Yo! The goal of this video will be to thoroughly explain the newly added content in the version 45 update of Lethal Company in as much detail as I possibly can. Once again, I am putting a spoiler warning as I believe this stuff should be experienced in-game first, as new content is always fun to experience firsthand if possible. And the stuff added here is especially great, so go play the update first if you can. The update includes new enemies, new items and item functions, reworked mechanics, and more. Each of these topics will be individually addressed throughout the video. I'd like to thank Liam, Marlon, Andrew, and Van for helping me test this stuff, but the update is quite large and detailed, so I wouldn't be surprised if a few things at least were missed. So you let me know in the comments if anything was. Closer to the end, I will go over some notable comments I've received since the last guide came out. You should expect corrections and useful bits of information in this section. Chapters for these sections should be available. I hope you enjoy. Starting off the new enemies section are the Nutcrackers. I believe they don't have a functioning log at the moment, as typing in their name or similar terms would not bring up a log for me. These mechanical menaces tower over employees and make sudden movements to patrol complexes. While patrolling, they make very loud and distinct whirring and thumping sounds to alert players of their presence. They back up these intimidating traits by wielding a double-barrel shotgun capable of ending any player's career instantly if they are too close. More often than not though, if you are careful by keeping distance, the shots will not do much more than graze you. Their mechanics go deeper than this though. A Nutcracker is piloted by a cycloptic, soft-bodied creature that uses the Nutcracker body for protection, as a shell. While patrolling, the creature will open its shell's mouth periodically to take a look around for any players to chase. If it doesn't spot any, it will close again and move around some more. When it does spot a player, it will give chase and begin emitting a song that sounds like it is being played by a fife and marching snare drum, signifying it has entered a battle state. So long as their song is playing, it will move around non-stop to chase players while keeping their shell's mouth open the whole time, so they are able to constantly see and chase you if you don't get far enough away and break line of sight. During this battle mode, it will fire at players it sees, so try your best to find some cover. Before firing, it will make a jingling sound heard here. A Nutcracker will also remain stationary while firing, and cannot fire rapidly, as the shotgun needs to be reloaded after 2 shots. While all of this makes a Nutcracker a formidable foe, it can be dealt with aggressively. It is very important to know while fighting one that so long as the shell's mouth is not open, they cannot be damaged, as their eye is their weak spot. So go in when the mouth is open, so the eye is exposed. They can be dealt with using just a shovel by ducking behind cover in between swings, so they never have a chance to hit you, as they need time to lock on. But getting greedy or losing cover during this process can easily result in death due to the close range one-shot potential of the double barrel Nutcracker wields. Therefore, if you expect to fight one, bringing stun grenades is greatly advised unless you have their timings down. I say this because stuns are easy to use against the Nutcrackers as they stand still for periods of time, and they force a Nutcracker to expose their soft insides, allowing you to at least get some good hits in before retreating. Nutcrackers only take 4 hits to the eye to kill, so you can kill one using only 1 stun if you are quick. Getting rid of them is not the only motivation you have for fighting them. This is because you are able to claim their shotgun and some shells after you kill one. It seems like you can't swipe the gun from their hands when they are alive. I will talk more about the shotgun later on in the item section of this video. In general, Nutcrackers are dangerous enemies that should be avoided unless you are prepared to deal with them. Keep an ear out for their various audio cues and you should be able to manage around them. Mimics are the other enemy added in this update. I'm not very well versed in SCP stuff, but they seem to function similarly to SCP-35. They are another outlier in the enemy pool, similar to the Ghost, as they are capable of traversing indoors and outdoors freely. This is because they mimic a player as closely as they can, so they will move around indoors and outdoors like a player would be able to. One way a mimic can originate is from one of 2 items, comedy or tragedy. Both have pretty extreme value ranges being between sub $40 to over $100 that may make or break your decision to pick them up. Also, they both weigh 11 pounds. When held, these masks can be put up to the holder's face and can be lowered sometimes. If a mask is held onto the user's face for a seemingly randomly determined amount of time, it will stick to their face. After this, the mask will eventually have its eyes turn a vibrant pink or red and emit some muffled screaming, which makes it clear to other crew members what is happening. Shortly after, the masked player will die, but their body will become possessed by the mask, denoted further by the body laughing ominously and twitching. The mask will then puppet the body around, making attempts to mimic player movements until it finds an unmasked player. When it does find a player, it will stare them down and begin approaching them. At a certain point, it will become extra aggressive and raise its hands towards the player to grab them. It can even sprint towards them for a short duration. If you are being chased, expect a mimic to be able to do what you can but slower, as mimics usually take a while to figure some things out, like climbing ladders and making jumps. If a player is caught, they will be locked in an animation where the possessed individual vomits blood onto them, resulting in the player dying and having their body possessed, allowing the masks to spread across a crew like an infection. You are able to fend off mimics with the shovel, but be careful as you have to get close to them to do so, and if you get grabbed, it typically will take more time for a crewmate to kill the mimic than it does for it to finish spreading the possession to you. Mimics are able to spawn on their own like a normal enemy, making it so they can become a threat without a player using a mask, as a knowledgeable crew would never have to deal with them otherwise, as they would know not to use a mask in the first place. At first, I mistook mimics spawning independently as dead bodies being possessed. Pretty extensive testing went into this, and it seems that this does not happen, but who knows, maybe it can. It would be pretty cool. Be aware that mimics can be teleported into the ship, allowing them to easily corner you, so be cautious and look for distinct movement patterns they have on the monitor, such as spinning in circles and aimless wandering. Mimics make the same footstep sounds crew members make, so if you hear walking or running, it is safe to double check if a real person is around. To summarize, don't use masks. Pick them up if you want, but try not to keep them with you for long if possible. If you see a mimic, let your crew know and remain cautious. They are usually slow but can act unpredictably, allowing them to catch and kill you. Moving on to items, I'll start with the double-barrel shotgun and shotgun shells mentioned with the Nutcracker. The gun weighs 16 pounds, and the shells don't weigh anything. As far as I'm aware, the only way of obtaining this item is by defeating a Nutcracker, allowing you to pick it up alongside some shotgun shells. The shotgun can be fired to unleash a devastating blast in the direction you are facing, dealing massive damage to anything close enough. For example, a blast is capable of instantly killing a player, which would normally take 5 shovel hits to kill. I am unsure if it does more damage than this, but you can safely assume to kill certain enemies like thumpers, spiders, mimics, and more with a single well-placed shot. As a double barrel, the shotgun can only hold 2 shells. After firing them, you will need to reload it, which can be done by pressing the E key when you have at least 1 shell in your inventory. Note that individual shells take up a whole inventory slot. The shotgun has a safety feature, which is toggled with the Q key, making it so you don't accidentally waste shells. Remember about it though, as the time it takes to switch it off may be the time needed for a bracken to catch you. The shotgun can be sold for a moderate price, but its use far outweighs its sell value unless you absolutely need to sell it. Due to the fact that killing a Nutcracker is the only reliable way to obtain more shells, and you can only have a maximum of 5 on one person with 2 in the gun and 3 in the inventory, you need to use them wisely, because it is very easy to end up stuck with a useless piece of equipment that you don't want to drop. Next up is spray paint. It costs $50 and weighs nothing. If you purchase paint in bulk, all of the cans will spray the same color at the moment, but you can have different colors if you order them separately. These colors include green, purple, red, and yellow. To actually spray things with the paint, you need to shake the can with the Q key. The more you shake, the longer you can use it for, but they do contain a limited amount of paint, so you will only ever be able to spray so much paint before needing a new can. Surfaces and crewmates can be marked with paint, allowing for messages to be left for anyone able to see them. For example, you can mark a path as a dead end, draw a funny face on a wall, and do much more. The paint is quite vibrant and visible in the dark, making it a great way to mark paths to help those who are lost. When you spray a surface, the paint will linger for multiple days as it slowly fades, so if you visit a complex multiple times, you will see markings left on previous days, both inside and outside. This item can do as much as your creativity will let you, so I'd like to hear some of your interesting uses for the spray paint. There was also a new ship upgrade added in version 45, this being the Signal Translator. It costs $255 and has a low profile. So long as it is in your ship, you unlock the Transmit command. This command allows you to type up to a 9-character message which will appear on the visor of all crew members after the command Transmit message is used. Special characters will not be included in these messages, so stick to letters and numbers. This ship upgrade is great for clearly spreading information from the ship without the use of a walkie. Some uses for it are simply sending messages about what types of enemies are present, such as dogs, or basic instructions like return. A problem with this is that the messages take some time to be transmitted, so time-sensitive information cannot be conveyed well using the translator. This can be worked around somewhat by planning codes with your crew, much like I said with the loud horn. For example, the presence of giants could be stated with just G if a crew is aware of its meaning. On the note of the loud horn, the translator has made its use as a way to convey information with sound signals mostly redundant, but it did get a price reduction to only $100, so it can fulfill this function if you are on a budget. The radar booster got a new mechanic added to its list of functions. It is now capable of producing a mini stun grenade effect with the command flash booster name. There is a short cooldown on the flash effect, so it can't be totally spammed. Enemies that are able to be stunned will be if they are within the stun radius, allowing players to escape them or wail on them. Players in the radius are temporarily blinded and deafened, so this function can backfire. Even boosters that are being carried can flash, so long as they are in the player's hand and on. This will fully blind and deafen the player, which may result in them dying, but they do become a walking flashbang, which is cool and funny. Overall, this is a great addition to a once meek item, which allows those manning the ship to really get involved when helping their crew. There are even some new pieces of scrap to collect, these being the Chemistry Flask, Whoopie Cushion, Wrapped Gift, and Homemade Flash. There might even be some that I couldn't find. None are worth much money-wise, but they all add more variety into the scrap pool. The Chemistry Flask is just a basic piece of scrap, but the others are a bit more interesting. The Whoopie Cushion makes funny fart sounds when stepped or jumped on, which only really serves as a classic gag or to alert eyeless dogs. The wrapped gift can be sold as is, or it can be opened to drop a piece of scrap you would typically find on whichever moon you're on. So if you're on one of the hard moons, it can contain something great like a perfume bottle. The homemade flash acts like a stun grenade if they had no fuse. This means that as soon as you pull the pin or cork on one, it will detonate in your hands, discombobulating you and any nearby enemies. New ship decorations are also available. I know I haven't gone over any of them before, but I'll include these here as this is a video for the whole update. The fishbowl costs $50 and adds a neat low poly fish to your crew. The Pajama Man plushie costs $100. It's a cool reference to the upturn and can be interacted with to make a squeaky toy sound. Finally, there's the welcome mat that costs $50 and adds a homely flair to your ship that could get you on House Fancy. The final major section for the update is here to address things that were already in the game that had aspects changed, not added like the flash command with the radar booster. To begin, mansion complexes have had their map generation system tweaked. I'm not able to point out specifics, but they do feel better to play in. If I had to say something about it, mansions now feel a lot more cohesive in the fact that the rooms are often connected in more natural or interesting ways. They are not just separated by doors and walls with deep hallways dividing them. A personal note I wanted to mention about this change is that it was teased by Zeekers before the update, and I got my hopes up that the generation would change in a different way. Currently, mansions feel as if they are generated with about 3 to 5 incorrect or short paths, and 1 correct path pretty much every time. I feel like this hinders the potential of the indoor exploration factor of the game, as it becomes predictable, with everyone just trying to find the door that leads to the deepest path. It's hard to describe how I feel about it, but the simplest thing I feel I can say is that this feature of the map generation makes the complexes feel more segmented, and exploring them isn't as interesting as I think it could be. I think the same could be said for the industrial complexes to a lesser extent. I can understand if the vision is that there's only ever one real way to go in a complex, with one extensive path to explore, but this is just my 2 cents. Anyways, back to the changed features. Standing on top of railings to avoid short enemies is pretty much no longer a surefire way of avoiding them. I personally think this is a great change, as railings made the Thumper and Spider trivial to deal with if you had a weapon. It also made it so avoiding them in intended ways, such as taking many turns to escape Thumpers, a second thought. This change also makes it so combat-oriented tools like the stun grenades and zap gun are more viable, as they are now a reasonable choice when dealing with low-to-the-ground enemies. Fall damage got a change. It used to be that you could jump from any height so long as you didn't fall down a pit, and you'd only take a small amount of damage, which couldn't kill you so long as you weren't at critical health. With this change, fall damage is able to kill you from full health if you fall from a great enough distance. This is very important to note for certain things, such as jetpacks being more dangerous if you aren't careful, and no longer being able to jump from the top of Titan to quickly return to the ship. Finally, here are some smaller changes that can be gone over quickly as they describe themselves enough. Forest Keepers are easier to avoid. Cool. There are keybind options now. Cool. There's an arachnophobia mode now. It replaces spiders with Gmod error-esque Tusk. Cool. That wraps up what I have to say about the update. Now into some comments I thought should be addressed here. To start, in my tools guide, I said all purchasable tools will not attract lightning. I'm unsure of what caused the phenomenon I experienced, where no tools in my games would get struck, but this is clearly not a common occurrence. I say this because countless people were able to recall their tools getting struck, and I even had friends show me their tools getting struck in their games. However, unless this was changed in the update, tools purchased from the terminal seem to interact with lightning in a very inconsistent manner. I believe it is an inconsistent interaction, because people who commented only mentioned 1, maybe 2 tools in their experiences that would attract lightning. But I've now seen the shovel, extension ladder, and cheap flashlight get struck, and I've heard of almost every other tool getting struck, so it seems everyone is having different tools get struck in their games. For now, I will say be careful with tools. Keep an ear out for the static sound when carrying them, just as you would any other metallic item. This lightning issue may be something that can be solved by looking into the files and coding of the game, if it's intentional. But I am no expert in this, and I feel like understanding how the game works down to its programming kinda takes the fun out of it for me. This is also why I haven't addressed the paranoia feature tied to the ghost, as I don't even know about it fully because I avoid looking into it. For this case though, I would be interested in hearing about if lightning can be explained at this level, if someone is willing to look into that. Moving on, another mistake I made in the last guide was saying that shipments can only contain 10 items at once. The correct statement would be that only 10 items can be ordered at once from a batch from the terminal, but a shipment can contain a total of 12 items. For example, with no previously ordered items, you can type in Pro 11 to order 10 Pro flashlights. You can then order an additional 2 items, but no more until that shipment arrives. I'd like to thank Annie One Trick for pointing this out. A useful tip Fluffy Paw Ninja 7636 left is that if you are actively using a walkie-talkie when you die, a static sound will play through any other walkies that are on. So if you don't have time to say you're going to die, this can notify your crew members. It doesn't really do much to help yourself though. Next is some useful terminal tips I missed. Rytops let me know that specific players can be switched to when viewing the monitor on the terminal, regardless of their position in the viewing queue. This can be accomplished by typing in switch and then the player's name while on the terminal. Names can even be abbreviated to the first 3 characters used in this command. For example, my username FezGuy could be abbreviated to just Fez to switch to me. The same can be said when talking about radar boosters. Torkel the Tall and Mr. Nacho Chip let me know that if you have text copied to your clipboard, it can be pasted into the terminal. usually by pressing the Ctrl and V keys at the same time. This allows you to save time while inputting commands you usually have to spam, such as the switch and trap or door codes. A few people also let me know that walkies can be used while using the terminal, so long as they are in your hand when you start typing in the terminal. This allows you to communicate very effectively while monitoring players from the terminal. A few people commented about using the boombox as a way to mark the entrances. If a boombox is placed at an entrance, you'll be able to hear the song it is playing from some distance and work your way towards it. Although, this isn't a perfect trick, as the boombox's battery life of about 6 minutes is not long enough to last an entire day, and the distance at which the song can be heard is not that great. As well, the main entrance lobby on industrial complexes also makes a unique sound that can be heard from a distance. Heard here. However, this sound isn't very distinct, and mansion lobbies and fire exits don't make sound. Overall, for players who get lost frequently, and go to mansions and or take the fire exit to get in often, can make good use of this tip. A popular method of confronting baboon hawks quite a lot of you let me know about is intimidating them. Most people do this by making lots of noise, just as you would when dealing with a black bear. This can be done by yelling or talking loudly enough through your mic, or using certain items such as the air horn to make them back off. It seems to be that if you're already too close to them, they will attack anyways, which makes sense. Apparently, more items are intended to intimidate hawks in the future. Another method I've seen mentioned is jumping in front of the hawks to intimidate them, but I haven't tested this. A very convenient tip Broske Streams commented is that the light switch found in the ship is something that can be moved and rotated. This allows you to place it in a more convenient spot, as I am sure everyone has had lightning strike the ship and not been able to find the light switch for longer than they would like. Just make sure you let your crew know that you're removing it, as many people don't know about this and may never find it unless they are told. Hint hint, wink wink, troll them. Zeke7100 came up with an interesting idea, which is that walkies can be used as clocks. This is possible because their battery lasts longer than a whole day. So if you leave a walkie on from the start of the day, and you have an understanding of how long it takes to drain, you can estimate the time outside by checking how much battery life is left in the walkie. For example, a walkie will be at about 50% battery life around 3:30 PM if it is on from as soon as the ship starts landing. And that's that for this video. For those who are still around, I was thinking about moving the comment part of these videos to their own videos. This would allow me to address more comments and more about them, to make some discussion type videos. The idea for these would be that before making them, I would put out a community post that people could comment under about whatever they want. Maybe things such as what they like or dislike about the game at the moment, or what direction they hope the game does or doesn't go in. Really whatever you can think of related to the game, and maybe a few off-topic personal questions addressed to me. I could then pick out some and give my opinion on them, which would also generate a space for discussing them in the comments of the video they're talked about in. An important thing I'd like to mention is I don't want these discussions to promote rallying behavior like a petition signing type of thing or spamming the same or similar suggestions outside of these posts to not, pester Zekers, and to also keep things positive. Criticism is welcome, but try to keep negativity away from others interacting with these posts. I'll throw up some side notes on the screen right now so that what I don't want to come from these posts is abundantly clear. Just as an extra note, comments from videos like this one would also be included. If you are interested in this type of thing, let me know in the comments and I could start working on one. Now I'll end off with how I ended the other videos, by saying that Lethal Company is intended to change more just as it did with this update, so topics covered here may not remain factually correct or relevant. Despite this, I hope this video will be valuable for the time being, and be a way to look back on the progress of the game in the future. Also, if you feel like anything said here was wrong or missing, let me know in the comments and I'll try to address it. As always, I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching. An extra thing I'll add on here is that I just totally forgot the Bracken log in the monster video, so if anybody still wants to see that, I'll add it on here. But that ties into the last thing I wanted to say, and that is that the Bracken room can be tied to a Bracken spawning all the time, and I have absolute evidence of this. So the first and strongest piece of evidence is that